The problems in Israel and Gaza have a knock-on effect elsewhere. So we see the immediate knock-on effect with the cancellation of meetings in Amman with President Biden. But there's also the knock-on effects on the Russian-Ukraine war and the efforts to bring India, Brazil, and South Africa into the basic consensus that Russia has acted inappropriately. How can one defend the response of Ukraine at times when one's also criticizing the response of Israel? My position here is very simple. A defensive response is entirely legitimate, and an offensive response is entirely illegitimate. So the moment Ukraine crosses the border into Russia, it becomes very difficult to justify that with international support. The moment Israel crosses the border into the Gaza Strip, it becomes difficult to justify that with international support. And whether Israel or Hamas or Islamic Jihad is responsible for the bombing of the hospital, in a way, it doesn't matter because the optics are against Israel, and the optics are against Israel for a very good moral reason. Without Israel's siege, that hospital would not have been bombed. That hospital would not have gone up in flames. The many lives lost would not have been sacrificed to this warhorse of chaos. So the various countries that have traditionally traditionally supported the Palestinian cause are given strength in the turn of events, and many countries feel that America and other Western powers like the UK have never held Israel to account for the way it's treated Palestinians, or indeed the failure to deal with the brutal conflicts in Syria, in Yemen, and in Libya. That the impression is that the powers in the West don't give priority and credence to the Arab world, to the Muslim world. And so then we get things like the G7, people from the G7 saying what we've said about Ukraine has to be applied to Gaza, otherwise we lose all credibility. The Brazilians, the South Africans, the Indonesians, why would they ever believe what we say about human rights? Why indeed? There has to be some consistency. And we have to measure very carefully what is being said. There's a common position and a common moral standard. I think we have to prevent Russia from taking the initiative in Ukraine at any point. And that means, by definition, that we have to protect Palestine. I think at the same time, we have to make it very clear that Hamas is a terrorist organization and needs to be uprooted. Now, that's a difficult balancing act. And then, of course, there's the nuances of the Iranian attitude to Israel, which is that it should not exist. That is an outrageous conclusion. And after 75 years, it's, I think, practically an impossibility as well. So everything has to be balanced against the security and safety of Israel and the absolute support for the State of Israel. In my own case, I balance that against a dislike of the present Israeli government and a dislike of most of the Israeli governments since the beginning of this century, particularly that of Ariel Sharon. And I would see, in the sort of historical overview, I would see the problems that we're facing today anchored in the solutions proposed and conducted by the Sharon government particularly. I think there were huge opportunities in the Oslo peace accords and until the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. That assassination changed the face of Israel, and the ascent of the right wing in Israeli governance has sealed a lot of the fate and has dictated the actions of that country. But the political decisions need to be divorced from the national reality.